What is a change in circumstances? That's what we'll be talking about today. Okay, so in the Medicaid planning world, which I operate, we are concerned about reporting changes in circumstances to the Department of Children and Families, to the Social Security Administration, or sometimes both. Sometimes not both, but sometimes both. And the idea is if there's any significant change in your life and you're receiving benefits, needs-based benefits from one of these organizations, then you're supposed to report the changes to the government if it could potentially impact your benefits. So if you from married to divorced, divorced to married, if you buy or sell a home, if you come into an inheritance, if your income or assets change in any way, if your address changes. These are just some of the examples that you have an obligation, depending on what benefits you're receiving, you have to report these within a certain period of time. And depending on the agency we're talking about, that time varies by a little bit. So if you are on SSI, that's Supplemental Security Income, not to be confused with SSDI, not to be confused with Social Security Retirement, but if you have SSI, then you have an obligation to report any change in circumstances within 10 days of the following calendar month. So if you receive money on, I'm making it up, January 2nd, you have until February 10th to report the change in circumstances. This timing is really important because if we have the ability to control when we receive an inheritance or when we sell a house, and we want to now do planning to preserve these benefits, we want to make sure that we do it, sort of close to the beginning of one month, so we have until 10 days into the following month in order to report this change, okay? Now, many of my clients, especially the ones on the Medicaid waiver program or on the ICP program, they're not on SSI. Their income is likely to oftentimes, not all the time, but oftentimes too high to qualify for SSI. They may be getting Social Security retirement, but they're not on SSI. They're on a Medicaid program. Again, Medicaid waiver or ICP. Now, for those folks, they would not, if there's a change in circumstances to be filed, you wouldn't file anything with the Social Security Administration because you're not receiving assets or not receiving assets, or, and these changes don't impact your ability to qualify for these benefits or Social Security benefits if it's not a needs-based Social Security program. Now, Medicaid waiver and ICP is a needs-based, Florida-based Medicaid program, and so you do have to report the change in circumstances to the Department of Children and Families. That's the agency in Florida who's responsible for determining eligibility and monitoring continued eligibility. Now, for DCF, the time frame is 10 days from the date of the change. It's not the date of not following the month, not in the next month within 10 days. It's 10 days from the change happening, you have an obligation to report it. Now, as an aside, my experience has been, this is the past experience, does not me promising it will stay the same in the future. As long as your eligibility is maintained, if you report it within 30 days or 45 days, there will be no problem. I have not seen a problem as long as you really were eligible. So if you're a little bit delayed in reporting it, it's not always the biggest issue, as long as if they were to go back to when you should have reported it, they go, okay, based on what you received or whatever the change was and whatever actions you took to maintain eligibility, if you didn't violate any of those rules, any of the gifting rules, then your benefits will still remain intact because they understand that people can't always process these things and get to the reporting within 10 calendar days. That doesn't mean we want to, if we can avoid having to report late, then that's always beneficial, but it's not always a death knell either. As a reminder, with Medicaid in Florida, the rule is also when how they determine eligibility is a little bit different from an asset perspective. With DCF, it is one day every month you have to be at or below $2,000 to qualify for the Medicaid waiver or ICP long-term care programs. If you're receiving care at home in an ALF or a nursing facility, you're going to be either on the Medicaid waiver or ICP. So it's one day every calendar month. Doesn't matter when during the calendar month you're at or under 2,000, as long as one day every calendar month at or below 2,000. Now contrast that with if you're on SSI, you might have a DCF program as well, but you might also be receiving Supplemental Security Income, SSI, And SSI looks at things a little bit differently. All they care about is on the first day of every calendar month, you are at or below $2,000. So DCF is looking at any day of the month. Social Security Administration is looking at the first day of every calendar month where you have to maintain eligibility. So again, within these reporting requirement restrictions, we want to make sure that we have a plan in place, hopefully before you receive the inheritance, before you sell the house, before the actual change occurs, you come to someone like me if you're in the state of Florida. So we have a plan in place so that we can report on time, so that you're never in violation of the rules, and we protect your assets legally and ethically. If you are anywhere in the state of Florida and you want to talk about a change happening in your life that might negatively impact your Medicaid, or if you don't have Medicaid and you want to talk about how we can protect your assets to get your Medicaid, please schedule a consultation. Again, I'm Jason Neufeld with Elder and Eves Law. If you like this video, please share it, please give it a thumbs up, help me get good information out to Floridians everywhere. Thank you for watching.